What's doing, everybody? Welcome to First Class Fatherhood. I'm Alec, and before I hit you with today's interview, make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel and hit the link in the description so you can listen to all of the interviews I've done with so many tremendous dads, including Dana White, Deion Sanders, Tony Hawk, and so many others. Now let's get going with today's interview. Joining me now, First Class Father, John Brenkus. Welcome to First Class Fatherhood.
Thank you so much for having me. Really appreciate what you're doing.
All right, let's start it like this here. How many kids do you have? How old are they?
I've got two kids, 14-year-old boy and a 12-year-old girl. Obviously, as all the dads out there know, it's, greatest thing in your life. It's funny how your life just centers around what's best for your kids. Like when you're in your 20s and even, in your early 30s, it's like, how do I make myself happy? And then it completely changes to, how do I make my kids happy? So I'm all about making the kids happy.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. You got 1 and 1 there. So you got 1 and 1 each right out of the gate, and then we're done, huh? That was it?
That was it. That was the idea. We had to roll the dice. We rolled it twice. And
just like you planned it.
Good. Exactly. It was like God said, you will have a boy and a girl, and that's it.
What type of sports or activities are they into?
My daughter's into gymnastics. She's pretty good. She is just turning 12 and is doing really well. My son is into lacrosse and fishing and, all kinds of stuff. So it's fun.
All right. John, if you could, please just take a minute here to hit my listeners with a little bit about your background and what you do.
Sure. Yeah. I'm best known as the host and creator of a show called Sport Science. That was on ESPN. We did 1,800 episodes and won 6 Emmys. We're very grateful. It was started on Fox, went over to ESPN. And, but I really am trained in messaging and media. I've done thousands of hours of television shows. I've done tons of marketing campaigns. And now I'm the CMO for a company called KILL CLIFF, the clean energy drink company. It's, founded by a Navy SEAL. It's run by a Navy SEAL now. You go to KILL CLIFF, KILLCLIFF.com. It's really solving the problem of, crappy energy drinks that are out there with too much sugar and synthetic caffeine. And this is a clean alternative to that. So I'm really honored that, the community and especially the company of KILL CLIFF has welcomed me aboard.
Yeah, well said. Yeah, I'm going to jump into the KILL CLIFF in a minute. I'm going to include a link in the description of this podcast episode that'll take my listeners right over there to check it out. So along this journey here, John, about how old were you when you first became a dad, and how did becoming a father change your perspective on life?
Yeah, I was 32, 33 when I became a dad. The way that I became a father was interesting. My wife and I had only been married, probably a year or so, and she was out of town, and we had a little 2-seater convertible, and I was on Main Street in Venice. We used to live in LA, and I looked up in my rearview mirror, and an SUV, some dude was driving. He was on his cell phone, and I could tell he wasn't gonna stop. And literally, I'm like, I'm gonna die. And fortunately for me, the guy tried to swerve out of the way at the last second, still ran straight on into me without hitting his brakes, spun me around full 360. It was a horrible car crash. And the only thought that went through my mind was, I haven't had a child yet. And that was the first thought in my mind. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to die. I think it was 31 at the time or 32. I'm like, oh my God, I think I'm going to die. And I haven't had a kid yet. And I called my wife and I said, I was just in a pretty bad car accident. We're going to have kids right now. I know we haven't been married long, but we there's no better time than right now. So that really, sent us down the road, and we were incredibly blessed. For us, it was, it happened very quickly, and we first had our son, and then we had our daughter a couple years after, and we're just incredibly, grateful and thankful.
Yeah, good stuff, John. And I think we're definitely I talk about the fatherless crisis that we have in our country right now, where too many kids are growing up without a dad in their life. But on the other side of that, there's like this bad philosophy as far as towards family life and becoming a dad from a lot of the younger guys. They feel like it's not something they want to pursue early in life. It's something they want to, it's not really on the radar. It's get the job, the money, the career, and all that becomes important. And then you see a lot of these guys that miss the boat on it. And when they're 60 and over and never look back and never had kids, you see that empty void in them, and it really takes a toll later on in life. So it's like really, today we're in a society where people have bigger houses and smaller families. Years ago, we had people that lived in smaller places and had larger families. And I think somewhere along the line, we've got those priorities skewed.
Yeah, no, I would totally agree with you. I like I said, I was in my 30s, early 30s when we finally had our first, our first child, and I definitely suffered from being worried. Like, oh my God, how am I going to handle this? I had, my own production company, and you're for whatever reason, like we're really concerned about finances, and we're like thinking to ourselves, how am I going to afford this? How am I going to do this? And there were two thoughts that went through my mind that I thought that really did help me. One was, here I am worried about, how I'm going to figure this out. How am I going to be a dad and still have a job and, be able to balance everything? And the thought that went through my mind was, there are over 7.5 billion people on the planet. I can't possibly be the least qualified person. I may not be the most, but I can't possibly be the least. And a lot of people have figured this out. So that sort of put me at rest of like, I'm sure this is an equation that can be figured out because everybody does it, all day long, all over the world. And then I had another moment when you bring home your first child from the hospital, and it's that very surreal experience where, you shut the door behind you. All of a sudden it's myself, my wife, and we have this human that's, a couple days old. And you're like, what do I do? How am I going to handle this? And it's this incredible feeling. And I remember very early on, my son was up, at night, crying, and I, put on my Superman cape and walked down the hall and was holding him. And as I was raining down love on my son and telling him it's going to be okay, like it's going to be okay, as I'm trying to just soothe him and comfort him, I could feel God's love raining down on me at that exact moment saying, it's going to be okay. You're going to figure this out. And it was a really distinctive, powerful moment for me where, when you surrender to the natural course, when you surrender to the universe, to the, whatever religion you are, surrender to a power higher than that of your own, things do work out. They just do. If you're putting one positive foot in front of the other, good things will happen.
Yeah, very well said. And I think that's another thing that's been missing so much from our society too, is the fact that God's been removed from so much of it. And I think that, and you know what, you're tied into this Navy SEAL community. I've been blessed to have so many Navy SEALs on the podcast, so many special forces operators. And I think those guys get that service before self mentality drilled into them early in their military careers. And the first time civilians like myself get that is through the experience of fatherhood and understanding, wow, I didn't know I was capable of this type of love in me. And the first time I see that is through becoming a dad. And right now, I think we more than ever, we need more love to dominate our culture than ever before. So I think being a father, being a family man, being a faithful person, I think leads us in that path, and it leads to a path of healing.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. When you think about what role does religion play in your life, I happen to be Catholic, I got married in the Vatican over in Rome. And, I feel very strongly that faith, whatever your religion is, faith is incredibly important, realizing that there is a power higher than that of your own. And I was really brought up under what I consider to be the true definition of Catholicism, which is there is no one right religion. It's just, there's no one right way, one right, correct religion. There is a correct way to live, but there is not one religion. And, I think that when people realize we know right from wrong, we know we're supposed to love thy neighbor. We know we're supposed to be kind and generous and helpful. We know that. And even though we do know that, when you don't have kids, you kind of get wrapped up in yourself a little bit. And it seems like, especially our American culture, of bigger and better and, being fairly materialistic, that's just the consequence of it. But as soon as you introduce a child into the equation and you become a parent, everything changes. And if you have $100 in your pocket and you're like, wow, I could buy myself something for, something that I'll use or something that my child will use, you like 100 out of 100 times you're buying something for your child, and it brings you much more joy. And really it takes that love that you have for your child and you extend it out into the world. You become a different person. And what's interesting is when people say, I don't want kids because, I want to be able to go out, or I want to be able to hang with my boys, or I want to whatever. It's like everything else. There are phases to life. You choose to get married and you're not going out dating 10 girls. You want to be a parent. You're not going out as much. Like, you're making a choice. It's not that, people are scared of it, but change is the only thing that's constant. And especially when you become a father, watching your child grow, seeing those different milestones, whether or not it's eating their first solid food or taking their first step or saying their first word or whatever it is, it puts a completely different perspective on life that I believe helps in, every possible facet.
Yeah, I agree with you, John. And I think going along with what you say there, I think that's our ego. It starts to take a little bit of a back seat once you become a father. And I think it was Wayne Dyer that said ego stands for edging God out. And I think that's what happens a lot of times is, especially in this world we're living in, where social media, likes, followers, we put the stress on ourselves so much more than what we're giving. And just like I had the Iceman, Wim Hof, on not that long ago, and he was like, you know what? The mother in Baghdad wants the same thing as the mother in New York. Once you're a parent, it's a universal language. You understand what the parent wants. We want our kids to be loved, feel appreciated, and we don't want to see them harmed or feel depressed. So I think we're more alike than we know. And we're all really, at the end of the day, we're all after the same thing here.
For certain. There's no doubt about it. I believe that human beings are innately good. I believe that. I just think that, people have emotions. I almost feel like emotions are the proof that we're good, because you have that you have a bad feeling when you see something bad or when you do something bad. You feel different. You also feel different when you do something nice or you see something nice. You feel different. And the fact that we have those feelings, to me, means that we're drawn toward feeling good, toward doing good. And that's where I think that we're all, when I say we're all cut from the same cloth, no matter where you're from in the world, you want what's best for, obviously you want what's best for your family and your kids, but you want what's best for the world. You want to emanate positive energy, because positive energy begets positive energy. And when you become a parent, you really get to learn that every second of every day of how do I love better?
Yeah, and I think right now all parents are placed in this unique position to kind of change their parenting techniques and styles. With the COVID-19 has kept us all quarantined to our homes and disrupted all of our routines that we've kind of settled into. Especially, I know we're talking about sports. It's like, all sports in the spring were canceled. So my kids, used to be doing their sports activities, after school stuff, all went out the window. So it really kind of flipped everything upside down on us. And getting into what you do here now, now you're involved with the Kill Cliff. We see so many of the sports drinks every time you go to the bodega. I mean, there's filled a whole case full of different types of sports energies, drinks, and all this other stuff. And I honestly, I don't know what the major difference is between them. What separates Kill Cliff here from the rest of the competition that we see in that case?
Plain and simple, it's a clean energy drink. Nothing artificial, nothing fake, no sugar. It's a drink that's good for you, for lack of a better word. It's a, what you have in large, in the brands that are dominating the space is, genuinely, it's almost like an epidemic of, you're putting bad liquid into your body and you get bad results. It's that simple. You put something that's good for you in your body and you get good results. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to tell you, making sure that nothing is artificial, nothing is fake, no sugar. It's way better for you than a can that's loaded with a couple 100 milligrams of synthetic caffeine, and 50 grams of sugar. I mean, we know soda is terrible for you, and energy drinks are, traditionally even worse. So Kill Cliff, which is the clean energy drink company, is really on a mission to make sure that not only adults but kids have an alternative that's actually far healthier for you than the traditional energy drinks.
Well, that's what I was just going to ask you there too, John. What is the age recommendation that you say? When is it safe? At what age to start drinking a Kill Cliff?
Yeah, Kill Cliff it's literally all natural ingredients, So, that's a parental decision. My kids drink it, so they're 12 and 14, and I have no problem giving them an energy drink because I know that there's nothing fake, nothing artificial in it. So, but again, parents make their own decisions on what they want to give their kids, but it's not like there are any ingredients that are unsafe for kids. So, I would say any age, but it's not pure water. So, some parents, make their own decision, but I, have no reservations saying, it's perfectly fine for kids to be drinking this. And they certainly, if your kid's drinking something like a Red Bull or a Monster, like they should definitely get off of that right now and, get on the Kill Cliff train.
Yeah, and I think that's what it is that I'm getting to. I would see that. I don't think I would ever want to give my kid a Monster energy drink. My oldest is 14. Oh. But then at the same token, I don't want to give him a can of soda either. I think we're so much more quicker to do that. We're ready to say, hey, take this can of Pepsi. That's just nothing but a whole can of sugar. So that's why I love that there's an alternative out there, too, with the Kill Cliff. And reining it back into you here as a father, what type of disciplinarian are you as a dad? And is it different than the discipline style that you grew up with?
Yeah, I would say that I'm similar to the way my wife and I are similar to the way that my parents raised my sister and I, in that I like to give my kids a lot of freedom. I really do want my kids, to feel as though they're making their own decisions, which they are. I often use the expression like, go outside, skin your knee, fall off your bike, do something that, you got to like stretch yourself, and it's okay to go out and try to figure out the world on your own. Obviously I'm here for you, but the last thing that I am or my wife is a helicopter parent. We are not those parents of like constantly monitoring every single thing that they're doing. We want them to have freedom and, I want my kid to skin their knee and to come home and have to deal with it and, to go out and meet people on their own and really sort of explore the world. I feel like that sort of mentality, for whatever reason, seems like it's a little bit, it's a little lost these days because people want to monitor their kids every second of every day. And I think that, if you knew you had a bracelet on where everybody knew what you were doing at all times, it's a bit stifling. And we really want our kids developing, their own identities, their own ideas, and figuring out the world for themselves, like I did growing up. I would go outside and not have to come home till the street light was on. The street light came on and you came home, and your parents didn't know my parents didn't know where I was, and you had to figure things out for yourself. And I'm the kind of person of I don't drink alcohol. I've never done any drugs. I've never been in a fight. I've never, I literally have lived a good, clean life because I was able to go out, make decisions for myself. My parents didn't put up, all kinds of taboos of you better not, and if you do, then this, and we're going to monitor and hover. It was really make up your mind and stretch yourself and see what you're comfortable with. That's the kind of parent that I like to be. And we're very blessed, incredibly blessed. Our kids have just a fantastic head on their shoulders. I mean, they know right from wrong. They know the things to stay away from. And I feel very blessed. But I think a lot of that does come from giving them the latitude and the freedom to be able to make choices on their own.
Yeah, well said, John. And you've had so much success here with the sports science, now with the Kill Cliff. What are your goals? What are your plans here for the future?
We just moved down to Atlanta in northern Georgia. So we're actually really loving the community down here. We grew up in Virginia, moved to California, moved to Salt Lake City, lived in Manhattan for a while. And we moved down to Georgia. We like to change things up. So you'll be seeing a lot of things coming your way through Kill Cliff and also a bunch of other projects that I'm working on. But just want to keep doing positive things, spreading positive energy, and making sure that everything that I do, I want my kids to be able to watch and be proud.
Awesome. Yeah, and again, I'm going to drop the link to the Kill Cliff in the description of today's podcast episode. Last thing I want to hit you with here, John, I love to ask all the dads that I get on the podcast, what type of advice do you have for the new dad or for that about-to-be father who's out there listening?
Don't be scared. Don't be scared. I certainly was scared going into it. There's nothing to be scared of. Whenever you hear buddies or somebody saying, oh my God, now your whole life is going to change. That's right. Your whole life is going to change for the better. And just remember that there are phases to life. And this is a phase when you look back, if you look, being a dad and being a parent, for some people, it's not in the cards. They just never wanted to do it. They don't want it. They don't want to do it. That's fine. Everybody's free to make their own choices. For those who are apprehensive, they want to be a father, but they're apprehensive. I can definitely tell you that there's nothing to be scared of, and it does change you in every way possible for the better.
Yeah, well said. I love the message. There's been a lot of fun for me. I got to say, John Brenkus, you're a first-class father all the way, and thank you so much for giving me a few minutes of your time here on First Class Fatherhood.
All right. God bless, guys.